One, can you talk about Coach Coryell, father of the modern passing game? Dan Feltz had, said that in his posthumous Hall of Fame induction with his daughter there. It was a beautiful ceremony. What was it like learning from Coach Coryell, being in San Diego, a team, unfortunately, that a city that no longer has an NFL team, unfortunately, and talk about stepping in for Coach Coryell. Man, you learn from him and becoming the head coach. What was that experience like?
It was unbelievable, and we talked earlier about the Raiders, and I grew up in Oakland,
Right.
and became a Raider fan. Well, uh, when I was in the fifth grade, one year, my dad was a lithographer, a printer, and he was working in Oakland, got a job in San Diego. So
Right.
we actually lived in Pacific Beach for a year in my youth.
Mm,
So San Diego was kind of a special place, and
yeah.
to have an opportunity. I went from the University of California at Berkeley to the University of Tennessee, and loved working for Johnny Majors. He was just a special head coach to work for, and was fortunate to have an opportunity to go to San Diego Chargers when they were the best offense in football.
Mm,
They were Star Wars offense. We led the league 6 out of 7 years in total offense. It
wow.
was a phenomenal experience, and I think Don would tell you that. Uh, and he was influenced greatly by Sid Gillman. Sid was the
Wow.
head coach for the San Diego Chargers, and that title of father of the passing game, I think that Bill Walsh, Dick Vermeil, Don
Yeah.
Coryell, and people that really, Al Davis would tell you
Mm,
the same thing. People that were around the passing game in those days with, John Hadle and Lance Allworth, and
mm,
the really unbelievable passing game, the vertical passing game, and Sid was still there when I was when I was a young assistant. The first year I was at San Jose, excuse me, at San Diego.
right.
Um, Sid Gillman was there, lived in La Costa, and after every game, we had film in those days. We didn't have video,
Right.
so
Right.
Gene Leff was our film director, and he would make uh, four films, for three for our staff and one for Sid Gillman. And I would drive that. I would in my car on. It was usually on Monday, late Monday afternoon. I'd drive my car to La Costa to Sid's apartment, take the film there with him, with me, so that he could have it, and he would make me stay there with him for about an hour until he watched the film through one time. The offensive film, which was just, it would be like, I don't know, it would be like you going to visit Mahatma Gandhi, and listening to
Right.
the,
Right. Yeah.
it was just fun. It was, I was just, and he'd ask me, what did you guys do here? What were you thinking here? So that was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And Don was so, um, he was so creative. His philosophy was, and we did different things every year, with different players. Now, in those days, players didn't. There was no free agency. There was no
Right.
plan B. So when you drafted a guy, he was with you. Well, we had
Yeah.
we had Dan Fouts, and we had Kellen Winslow, we had Wes Chandler, we had uh, you know uh, Charlie Joyner, we had Chuck
Right.
Muncy. We had a phenomenal offensive personnel. Eric Sievers, Pete Holohan, Lionel James, Gary Anderson. In my mind, I was called the Star Wars offense because that's what we were. You know,
Love it.
um, but Don, his philosophy was, first of all, make it fun. You
Yeah.
know, you make don't make anything make the simple things don't make the simple things complex. Make the complex things simple so that players can go and execute what they have to execute, and find out what a player can do and then put him in a position to do it. and
Mm.
and 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 we ran a lot of motion. We did a lot of move people out, and Fouts was such an accurate thrower. He was such a terrific quarterback. He was so tough, you know,
Yeah.
that he was able to do. So we had Dan Fouts. Dan Fouts was not a scrambler, right? He was not going to go out there and flush out of the pocket and run around. He was going to
Right.
stand in there until he got hit in the mouth or he threw the football. And so
Yeah.
the Ed Whites, the people that we had, Donnie Masix, the people that we had as pass protectors, their life depended on protecting Dan Fouts. And
Right.
Dan was a distributor. He was going to distribute the ball to the players that could make plays. So it was his job to get the ball in the hands of Chuck Muncie, get it in the hands of Wes Chandler, in the hands of Kellen Winslow, of those people that could catch the ball and make plays up the field. And we weren't going to be a dink and dunk offense. We were going to throw the ball down the field in the vertical seams. And
Right.
that's where Sid Gillman started. The vertical seam, attacked the vertical seams. And man to man, there were no vertical seams. You beat a man. So we had
Yeah.
players that were talented enough to beat man to man coverage, but we had designs smart enough to beat the concept of zone coverage. And if they were going to drop, 8 players in we were going to run the football. If they were going to pressure and bring 6 or bring 5 and drop a 7, we were going to attack the seams. And Don was so creative. And the great thing about Don Coryell, he let, and I think anybody that played for the Chargers during that time would give a lot of credit to Ernie Zampese. Ernie
Mm.
was probably one of the greatest offensive coordinators and greatest minds, offensive minds in the history of the game. And he had such a great relationship with Dan, and he fed off and Don would not hold anybody back. I mean, as a young coach, Don would say, Al, if you have an idea, let's hear it. Let it out.
Mm.
It was so exciting to be with Don Coryell because he never restricted anybody. He encouraged athletes to be athletes. He wanted to make it fun. And it was really the offensive concepts during that time. It was really a fun time to be involved with coaches like Ernie Zampese, Don Coryell, and people forget that Joe Gibbs was the offensive line coach before that.